Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It is November 7th, 2011. This is the Joint Town Council, Parking Authority, and Redevelopment Agency meeting of the Town of Los Gatos. First of all, I'd ask if you have your cell phones, would you put them on mute or off during the course of the meeting? And Madam Clerk, will you call roll?
Councilmember Stephen Leonardis.
Here.
Councilmember Barbara Spector.
Here.
Councilmember Diane McNutt.
Here.
Vice Mayor Steve Rice.
Here.
Mayor and Chair Joe Przinsky.
Here. Our first item of business is what we traditionally do to lead our community in the Pledge of Allegiance. And tonight we have a number of individuals with us who are going to lead us in the pledge. I have a few things I want to say about them. You may recognize them by the distinctive uniform that they're wearing tonight on the front row. These are the Happy Helpers. Happy Helpers was started by a group of friends that wanted to help others. Last year they raised money at a bake sale for My New Red Shoes, a nonprofit that provides school clothing and shoes to homeless children. They also assisted in putting together back-to-school kits, also to give to homeless children. They organized an animal needs drive in their neighborhoods to donate items to an animal shelter. They spent an afternoon at an Alzheimer's home singing and doing crafts with the residents. Future projects include the following: coastal cleanup, hosting a holiday party for homeless children and families, and many, many more things. Following the pledge, I'll tell you about another project that they've undertaken to help others as well. I'm going to introduce them and ask them to stand in place when they hear their names. First, we have some fourth graders at Dave's Avenue School. Ariana Yamati, Bella Yor, very good, very good. That's good, that's good. Ariana, just was checking it out, that's all. Bridget Berry, Carolyn Morse, Elizabeth Aston, Jessie Conlis, Julia Christie, and we have a fourth grader at Hillbrook, Natalie Clark, and we have seventh graders at Fisher Middle School, Kate Morse, and Anna Hita Yamati. And did we miss anybody? Okay. Ladies, if you would join me at the podium.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, I told you that there was another project that they have. All right. I told you there's another project that these young ladies are involved with. On Sunday, October 21st, the girls had a bake sale to raise money for the new Los Gatos Library. They raised $682.42. And that money is just kind of the seed money, because the total may be more, as some of the girls' parents may have companies that will match these earnings. So this is a great opportunity for us to thank these young ladies for what they're doing for our library. I'd like to ask Carol Hamilton and Christina Strand of the Friends of the Library to come forward. And one of our helpers is going to make a comment right now.
On behalf of the Happy Helpers, we would like to present this check of $682.42 to the Friends of the Library.
Makes sense. All right. Stay where you are. Don't go away. Don't go away. Don't go away. Stand right here. Okay.
So we would like to say a little something to you guys also. So I'd like to thank you, the Happy Helpers, from the bottom of both of our hearts. As most of you know, working on the campaign to raise $2.1 million to finish our town's new public library has been a huge job for the Friends and for those of us like me who have joined the effort. Hundreds of Los Gatos citizens have been part of this, and now you guys are too, and so we're very grateful to the Happy Helpers for joining in. With the Happy Helpers donation, we are taking another step towards reaching the Friends' goal of raising the money our town needs to complete our library. As of today, we have $1,864,700. You probably didn't know that, Joe. And so thanks to the Happy Helpers, this totals almost 89% of our total. Thank you. We would like to invite everyone in the audience and in our town to consider following the Happy Helpers example. As you can see, every dollar counts. Thank you to the Happy Helpers from the Friends and from all of us working on the campaign. Your donation and your commitment means a lot to our town. It's members of the community like you who make wonderful things happen in Los Gatos. Not only are you Happy Helpers, but you have made others happy through your help. Thank you.
One more time, applause for our Happy Helpers tonight. Cool, ladies. We rehearsed this whole thing. Yeah, I can tell. They're shaking hands. Yeah.
Go all the way to the end, that's where the candy is.
Get the mugs at the other end.
That was very cool. Yeah. Our next item for tonight is we want to honor a couple of members of our community who have done an extraordinary job in volunteering to assist us in a great project. That project is Music in the Park. I'd like at this time to call up Marianne Hamilton and Valerie Hopkins, if you would. These two women have been instrumental in providing us one of the most extraordinary community events in our history. And this is our Music in the Park program. And both of them have felt it was time to retire. And for us, it's going to be a great loss. But we know that the organization that they have put in place We'll continue to provide for the extraordinary opportunity we have every Sunday during the summer to gather on the front of the town hall lawn and enjoy music as a community. It's such a great tradition, and I know all of us here have very much appreciated the opportunity to come together as a small town to participate in this activity that these two women are responsible for. We have commendations for both. I'm going to read the commendation, and then I'm going to ask that each be willing to say a few words. Whereas Music in the Park, a summer series of free-to-the-public concerts, is a Los Gatos tradition spanning more than 20 years. And whereas Music in the Park allows community members to gather Sunday afternoons on the Civic Center lawn and celebrate a common social and cultural experience through music. And whereas Music in the Park presents a diverse spectrum of musical concerts such as opera, country, and tremendously popular rock and roll tribute bands. And whereas production of the concert series is heavily reliant on community volunteers. And whereas Marianne Hamilton and Valerie Hopkins have been instrumental in coordinating the production of the annual concert series, first as members of the town's Arts and Culture Commission, and then as members of the Los Gatos Music and Arts Board. And whereas Marianne Hamilton and Valerie Hopkins unselfishly contributed their time, energies, and capabilities to the Music in the Park program. And whereas the Town Council feels that such outstanding public service deserves special recognition. Now therefore, the Town of Los Gatos and the Town Council does hereby render with special appreciation a commendation to Marianne Hamilton and Valerie Hopkins for dedicated public service to the Town of Los Gatos and its residents. Signed, the Mayor and the Council of the Town of Los Gatos.
Thank you. It's quite an honor to be recognized for something that you love to do. Well, most of the time. Oh my goodness. That is so cute.
I don't believe we allow umbrellas in the concerts.
What about, would you put your blanket away, please? Well, obviously, Music in the Park is a lot more than Marianne and me, and it takes about 40 sponsors a year, usually small businesses, and probably another 40 individuals that we manage to rope in. Several of them are here tonight, and some in-kind sponsors that make this happen every year. So I want to make sure that they know how much we've appreciated that. Over the last 8 years, that's 80 concerts, and it's been a great time. There are also a couple other people I'd like to acknowledge, and pardon my laryngitis, and that would be John Hopkins and Doug Hamilton, who for the first they deserve to be on this as well, because for the first 6 years, every Sunday, they were out there setting up tents, tables, chairs, stanchions, barricades, mopping and sweeping the stage without failure. And it's a very labor-intensive, so thank you both so much. And then the last 2 years, Steve Leonardis and Michael Silva took over that job because they went AWOL. They said, enough already. And also our fearless park ranger, Dave Gray. Dave. Yeah, I can't imagine a week without Dave. And last and most, my co-chair, Marianne Hamilton, just the greatest, kindest, most considerate person that I know. Thank you.
Thanks, Valerie. Wow. I want to say that it's been an incredible honor and privilege and pleasure, and I'm a complete mess now. Thank you very much. Serving this town has been extraordinary, and Music in the Park is a wonderful program. I know it's in fantastic hands now, and it will continue to be a huge success. And the coolest thing will be just showing up next summer in our lawn chairs and not blowing up guitars or setting up anything. It'll be really cool. It'll continue to be a wonderful program. And the very, very best thing is serving with Valerie. She's an extraordinary woman, and she's taught me more than I can ever imagine about putting on a first-class event, and I hope that the town appreciates what she's done. Thank you all very, very, very much.
Wrong color.
Thank you all.
Well, our last presentation is from the Los Gatos United Soccer League, and Ed San Juan and Walt Duflock are here, and I had asked them to come forward and invite them to the microphone to inform us of something that the Los Gatos United Soccer League has donated. Gentlemen?
Mr. Mayor. Good evening. I'm Ed San Juan, and this is Walt Duflock. I was past president of Los Gatos United Soccer League for, since 1999, but Walt is a new man in town, and he is kind of like you folks. I love music in the park, and you got to hand it to someone who's responsible. Absolutely, to take care of it. It's a beautiful thing, but for the longest time, we started about 1,300 kids a year, and now we're up to almost 2,000 kids a year, and we're so short on fields. And we came to the town council, these wonderful people behind us and all the staffers, and we asked them for help, and they came up with a solution to our problem, and they found us a field. And since 1999, we started saving our pennies, and we know that the price of an acre of property here in Los Gatos is not the number you see on the check, but it's what we could do to help. And we will continue to be community partners, and we would like to give this check for $100,000 to the town of Los Gatos to help them out in any way they can with that beautiful new soccer field.
I would like to ask Todd Capurso to come forward, our Director of Parks and Public Works. Todd is the go-to man for the Creekside Sports Park. And Todd, I'd like to pass this from the soccer league to you on our behalf, okay? But I would like to remind you, and our photographer would like this higher. Okay?
Of course. Happy to help.
Okay. I'd like to remind you that the first item on our agenda tonight is to accept this check. And until we do that, don't cash.
I can't. I don't wait that long.
And I just want to say a couple words while these gentlemen are here. We first discovered this out at our groundbreaking / kickoff for the Los Gatos Creekside Sports Park. We had a whole group of individuals out there from our youth sports programs, and we had the opportunity to really start this project in a significant way. And the way we did that is by having a number of our kids kick off this event by kicking soccer balls into a net, and then tractors pulled down the walls of the building that is on site right now to start the demolition of what's going to be a property that's going to be extraordinary for our young people. Now, at that particular event, we were told Los Gatos United Soccer had a little something for us. I mentioned at the time it was probably Sharks tickets, but it turned out not to be that, okay? It turned out to be the donation of $100,000 for our soccer and sports park. And it just goes to show what tremendous support we have in this community for those things that are worthwhile to us. And the support for the library demonstrated this evening, support for the sports park demonstrated this evening, and support for everything we do just shows what a great town we have because of all the people who are part of our community. So for all of us in town, to Los Gatos United Soccer, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. All right, we have one more thing to commemorate before we move on to our business of the evening. As you know, we've had a couple of tragedies befall our community in the last few weeks. We heard over the weekend that former mayor and council member Steve Glickman passed away after a lengthy bout with cancer. We are going to honor his work for the town at our November 21st meeting. Tonight, we want to honor another member of our community who passed away recently, and that's Dave Flick. We will be adjourning tonight's meeting in Dave's honor, and we are honored to have with us tonight members of Dave's family back in that part of our chamber. Dave obviously was a well-loved and admired member of our community, both as a homeowner and a business owner. He unexpectedly passed away at age 53 on October 21st, leaving behind his wife, Sherry, Jesse and David, his kids, mom, Rosemary, brother Bill, sisters Julie, Cynthia, and Linda, and many, many, many friends. I was honored to be at the memorial service for Dave, and it was an extraordinary service, which demonstrated how much he touched the lives of members of our community. He lived and loved the town of Los Gatos, and in the homes that he built and the buildings that he renovated, he added greatly to our town's character and our history. We prepared a short slide presentation depicting some of his impressive work throughout the town. And I'd ask if we could go ahead and start that now. If we could get the lights. Okay. Thank you, Dave. We would like to make sure that the town and all of our residents, as you go down our beautiful streets, remembers what a wonderful contribution Dave made in his life. Our condolences to the family. Thank you for being with us tonight. We are now going to move from this part of our meeting to the next item of business, which is closed session. Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council and members of the public. The council met in closed session tonight as duly noticed and posted according to rules and regulations. Council met on the items as noticed, took no action, and therefore there's nothing to report out tonight.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is our council and town manager reports. I have one council matter I would like to comment on. On Saturday, the Los Gatos Community Foundation at its annual cotillion presented our own Councilmember Diane McNutt with the President's Award for this year. And on behalf of the council, I'd like to congratulate you, Councilmember, for a well-deserved reward. You're welcome. Any other council matters? Okay, manager matters.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, only 2 items before tonight's Did You Know? First, per your prior direction, we are doing an accelerated recruitment for 3 boards and commissions. The application deadline is December 1st. The 3 commissions that we're recruiting for are Transportation and Parking, the Parks Commission, and the Building Appeals Hearing Board. So we are seeking incumbent and new applicants for those commissions by December 1st for your interview and consideration later that month. Second, this Friday, the Civic Center administrative offices will be closed for an unpaid furlough day for town staff. Police services obviously will not be affected with that furlough day closure. Last, continuing the Did You Knows of the last 2 months, I'd like to call up Police Chief Scott Seaman to do the summary of emergency preparedness efforts and activities for the town of Los Gatos that have been presented to you over the last 2 months. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Scott Seaman, Police Chief. In September and October, the council committed 4 consecutive public awareness time periods to inform the public about the town's commitment to emergency preparedness. It's my pleasure to summarize those and just add a point of emphasis to that important information. 4 topics were covered: emergency preparedness and back to school, emergency preparedness work plan, the general approach, personal preparedness, and then evacuation planning. Under the back-to-school efforts, to again summarize, we've helped the school district establish their emergency operations plans, do training and skill and drill development, and then we have actually created a dedicated radio channel between all of the elementary schools and the police operations center. Under the work plan, there have been a number of activities. The Community Emergency Response Team actually just launched its most recent class this past Saturday, and on the 19th we'll be graduating 29 people. We have 4 neighborhoods that have been fully outfitted with radio centers and command centers, and 2 more coming online this year. The Los Gatos Prepared or Safe at Home program is moving forward. There were 12 sites that were used before the October time period to let people know about that program. And when we, on October 16th, presented that to the community, we had 500 people come and receive information. Personal emergency preparedness, and that's at the individual level, has been supported through our association with Santa Clara County Fire. There was a 2-day drill in October, and then we've made very significant progress on flood and evacuation planning. We have both of those threats in our community. Signage has been prepared, routes have been identified. In the next couple of months, residents will see information both in the form of the placement of signs and also marketing materials. With regard to personal preparedness, we've also created a community outreach database with the dedication of town staff to our department, and we now have 214 organizations in Los Gatos who have been identified, and we'll begin to coordinate with them. That concludes my comments. I would refer people to Sergeant Carrie Harris in our police department, to the website on the screen and available on the town's website for more information in recognition of the Loma Prieta earthquake and the anniversary of that event, and in recognition that we would probably never expect a 5.6 Temblor in Oklahoma, but we could certainly imagine one here. I just ask people to take personal steps to commit to personal preparedness to match the town's commitment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. And I just wanted to say on behalf of the council, one of our primary objectives when we looked at our work plan for this year was emergency preparedness. And the Chief's very thorough summary of what we've done to date indicates that we have stepped up, and we want to encourage all members of our community to pay close attention to our town website with the information that's provided there, and also to continue to prepare your own families for that day that seems to be inevitable. Our intention is that the entire community is prepared. We are not finished. This is not something that ends. It's something that's ongoing, that we have to continue to make ready for the emergency that is inevitably going to strike us at a certain point in our future. I want to thank the Chief and his department for the extraordinary efforts they've made during this year to bring our community's emergency preparedness up to a level that it is and will continue to evolve. So thank you again, Chief, for everything you and your team has done.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we're going to go to our consent agenda. These are items that will be acted on in a single motion. And I ask, is there any item on the agenda that a member of the council wishes to pull from consent? Seeing none, is there any member of our public that wishes to pull an item from consent? Seeing none, do we have a motion? Councilmember Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the consent calendar, items 1 through 8.
Okay, it's been moved that we approve items 1 through 8 of consent. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. That brings us then to verbal communications. This is an opportunity for any member of our public to speak to us on any item that's not on tonight's agenda. We do have one card. It's from Faye Rashford. Okay. And I would just remind all of us, if you wish to speak on items on tonight's agenda, the buff card that's in front of you in your seats should be filled out and given to our clerk on my left. Faye, you have 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. My
Faye,
name
would
is
you
Faye.
speak into the microphone, please?
Thank you. I appreciate the minutes that you're giving me here. I am working with a nonprofit that is trying to help people become more energy efficient, and we are holding various workshops throughout Santa Clara County to introduce people to a statewide program, and it's called Energy Upgrade California. We had a tremendous turnout last week at a workshop that we had here in Los Gatos, which prompted me to come tonight and let people know that we are also having this program, a repeat of the program we had last week in Los Altos tomorrow, and familiarizing people with things they can do to become more energy efficient, the various incentives that are being provided by the county and also through the statewide program. I do have some flyers available that I'll be happy to pass out and leave for you so that you can go ahead and do what you know you want to do and try to figure out where to start. And again, this program will be presented tomorrow, the 8th up at Shoup Park. We're going to be having this workshop in the Garden House. The doors open at 6:30 and the program starts at 7 o'clock. It's approximately an hour, and we welcome citizens from the entire state, but particularly from Los Gatos and from Santa Clara County.
Thank you.
And
Any
thank
questions for our speaker? Thank you very much. Now, you have materials to leave with us?
I do.
Okay, would you leave them with our clerk? That would be great.
I've given her materials.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak under verbal communication? Seeing none, then I think we can go to our public hearings. And the first public hearing is item number 9. This is the introduction of an ordinance for plan development. It's application PD 11001 and negative declaration ND 11005. It's for a project located at 800 Blossom Hill Road. And the applicant is Dan Schneider. And this is the owned property by American Baptist Homes. And we have a card from Mr. Schneider, okay, who is the applicant. Mr. Schneider, you have 10 minutes to present, and then we'll open up to the rest of our public. But if you choose to go, less than 10 minutes, that's okay too.
Okay. My name's Dan Schneider. I'm an architect with Boulder Associates. I practice out of San Francisco, and I'm the project architect for the addition at the terraces of Los Gatos. We're proposing a addition to the existing facility. It consists of 16 memory services units and 10 assisted living units to an existing site that has skilled nursing, assisted living, and independent living. We're excited about the addition. It provides units for residents with Alzheimer's and dementia, and it's needed at the facility. It's also recommended in the town's general plan and aligned with the goals of the town general plan. And I guess that's about all I have to say about the proposed project.
All right, thank you. Stay right where you are.
Okay.
Staff,
I figured you guys have
you
questions.
want to
for me?
supplement what was said what was indicated by the speaker?
Sure, I'll give you a little bit of background. The Terraces of Los Gatos is located at the southwest corner of Blossom Hill Road and Cherry Blossom Lane. It's a 9.2 acre site that includes a continuing care complex that currently includes 18 buildings. The facility has 175 independent living units, 135 assisted living units, and 59 skilled nursing units. There are about 93 employees that work at the site at peak periods. The Terraces was originally approved in 1986. The plan development was amended in 1989 to modify the composition of the living units to what is out there today. Residents must be at least 62 years old, or in the case of a married couple, at least one has to be 62 years old to live at the Terraces. There are currently 29 BMP units in the complex, and that will not be impacted at all by this proposal. The proposed building that Mr. Schneider mentioned is a 2-story, 23,000 square foot building that'll be connected to the existing assisted living facility to house the 10 additional assisted living units and 16 memory care units. The architectural style and exterior materials and colors will be consistent with what's out there today. Some additional landscaping will be done around this building. If you went out to the site, it was hard to find it probably. It's tucked way in the back corner. The architect and Terraces representatives did work with all the surrounding property owners and resolved any issues before they came before the Planning Commission. We didn't have anyone speak of opposing the project at that meeting. The parking situation out there, they have a surplus of parking based on plan development and code requirements. They will lose 42 on-site spaces with the project. They will still have more than they're required to have on the site. And in addition to that, they have an agreement with the adjacent Presbyterian Church for shared parking, so they can, if they have any overflow or they need parking for either visitors or people working on the site, they can park over the church facility. There's actually a direct connection to that parking lot. The church has agreed to allow them to have 20 additional spaces out there over what they have currently. The Planning Commission considered this proposal And they found that the proposed amendment to the plan development is consistent with the general plan, and they recommended approval of the mitigation negative declaration, the corresponding mitigation monitoring plan, and the plan development amendment that's being proposed. That concludes staff's presentation, and I am available if you have any questions.
All right, any questions for staff or for the applicant? Seeing none, the public hearing is open. Anyone wish to speak on this? We have no cards. Mr. Schneider, is there anything else you'd like to say?
Nope, thanks for considering our project.
All right, thank you. You may sit down, and we're going to close the public hearing. Look to the council for a motion, discussion, or any other clarifications. Councilmember Inspector.
Thank you, since everybody's just raising their hands. Would you like me to do number one, or would you like to do number one as Mr. Mayor?
I understand that you're interested in making a motion here, so I will move, or I will ask to waive the reading of the proposed ordinance. Okay.
I will then move to accept the Planning Commission's findings and recommendations in the form of the meeting minutes, and add on to that their vetting of this issue, especially as it related to parking, was very helpful.
All right. That's a motion to accept. Madam Attorney?
Just for clarification, if we could have the clerk read the title.
Ordinance of the Town of Los Gatos amending ordinance number 1788 to allow a new memory service and assisted living building for property located at 800 Blossom Hill Road, APN 523-05001.
Thank you. We have a motion, and we have a second. We have a second. Any further question, discussion? Calling the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Would you continue?
Yes, I continue. I move to adopt the mitigated negative declaration and the mitigation monitoring plan on attachment 2.
Second.
There's a motion and a second on the mitigated negative deck and the monitoring plan. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. One more.
I'll move to adopt the findings supporting the zone change, attachment 3, and approve the application subject to the performance standards included in the plan development ordinance, and introduce the ordinance of the Town of Los Gatos effecting the zone change from RM 1220 PD to RM 1220 PD as reflected in attachment 4.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. Congratulations. They're always this easy. Yeah. And thank you for being present with us tonight. Very good. That brings us to item number 10. Item number 10 is introduction of an ordinance for plan development, PD 11004. It's located at 15400 Los Gatos Boulevard. The owner applicant is SHP Newark. And I do believe that we have a staff presentation.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor, council members, ladies and gentlemen. In 2009, the council adopted a plan development for 15400 Los Gatos Boulevard, which authorized the approval of a 40,000 square foot, 2-story commercial building. One of the requirements of that approval was that 8,500 square feet of the first floor be either retail or restaurant. The applicant has been trying to secure retail and or restaurant tenants for that site and has not been able to do so thus far. As a result, the applicant's requesting approval of modification to the PD to remove that requirement for the ground floor retail or restaurant. No modifications to the approved building or site plan are required for this, and no further environmental review is necessary. On September 28th, the Planning Commission considered the applicant's request and recommended denial of the application because they felt it was a policy issue that specifically was a decision rendered by the council. So they determined that the appropriate action would be to recommend denial of that. In your staff report, staff's provided 3 potential options for the council's consideration. The first would be to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and deny the application. The second would be to approve the modification that the applicant's requesting, removing the requirement for retail and/or restaurant on the ground floor. And there's also a third option, which provides a opportunity to keep the language in there, but to place a requirement that a single tenant office user may be able to use the entire site. And if that was the case, then they would not be required to do the 8,500. The applicant's here to answer any questions, and that concludes staff's report, and we're here to answer any questions.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Councilman Spector.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regard to the council's decision, I think in 2009, to require the 8,500 square feet of retail or restaurant, was there a mandate in either any of our planning documents, the Boulevard Plan, or any other our planning documents that mandate requiring the retail or restaurant?
No.
And do you recall, because I don't, and I didn't look at ourselves on tape, do you recall the reason that we did it? I mean, was it anything specific, again, in our planning documents?
Well, I think that there was a lot of discussion if you went back and watched the video. There was a lot of discussion around the retail component. I think the vision for the boulevard is to become hopefully a more walkable, pedestrian-friendly boulevard. And to that end, there was some feeling that the retail and/or restaurant on the single-story leg, which projects closest to the boulevard, would help activate the site.
Thank you,
And the
Mr.
boulevard.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, then let's call the applicant forward. Oh, do you have another comment? The applicant, please come forward and introduce yourself. You will have 10 minutes to present. I assume you won't be taking the entire 10, though.
Good evening, Council. My name is Kevin Dare with SHP Newark. Thank you so much for your time tonight. We really appreciate it. As Planning Commission identified, the request for the PD amendment is a policy issue, and this is Council's decision to make. So tonight I'm requesting an amendment to the PD that in the event that we do secure a single tenant for the project, the retail component as part of the original PD would not be required. So this would be an added condition, and this would not eliminate retail coming in the future. If anything, we would, even if we were to have two tenants, we would still have the retail requirements still in full force and effect. So I'm not asking to change the building, the approval, the design at all. What I'm looking to do right now is actually maximize the opportunity while maximizing the flexibility for the overall site in the future. We've been working on this project for well over 3 years. Right now, I actually have a tenant who wants to occupy the entire space. It's a well-respected medical tenant, and they currently are not represented in town, but they have a strong presence in the Bay Area. The requirement is actually for 50,000 square feet, but because of the location, the project quality, and our ability to move forward now, they're willing to work with us for the 40,000 square feet that we do have. So because they need 50,000 square feet to go from 50 to 31,500 square feet, if we were to have retail here, that's too big of a gap for them, and they wouldn't be able to provide all the medical services that they want to. Secondly, they're not willing to occupy a space where it's a shared environment. They currently have a location right now that is a shared environment, and it doesn't work very well for them. So we are very excited right now to be able to move forward with this project. The project will definitely kickstart the development along the boulevard, and this particular tenant will bring a tremendous amount of service and value to the town of Los Gatos. So I respectfully request that you approve the PD amendment tonight. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Mr. Dare. Will you stay right where you are? Any comments, Mr. Dare, Vice Mayor?
So I just want to be clear on what the modification that you're proposing. You'd like it to be a single tenant who could take the entire building.
That's right.
But if even in the future that tenant were to move out and you were to end up with multiple tenants, then you're okay with it reverting back to that 8,500 square feet required to be restaurant or retail. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's all I wanted. Thank you.
All right, other questions, comments for the applicant? Mr. Leonardis.
Just wanted to disclose that I met with the applicant.
Okay, we might as well do disclosures now. I also met with the applicant. Inspector?
Met with Mr. Dare, Mr. Rodriguez, and Ms. Benjamin.
I met with Mr. Dare and Ms. Benjamin.
I also met with the applicant and his entourage.
Okay. All right, any questions of clarification? We do have one speaker card, but the manager would like to make a comment.
When it comes time to a motion, I would just like to ask that Mr. Paulson direct the specific language that Mr. Dare has supported in his comments.
All right, there is language contained on page 3 of the staff report. All right, I see no questions, Mr. Dare, so you can take a seat. And we have one card. It's from Amy Despars. Ms. Despars.
Hi, I'm Amy Despars. I've been here before. I'm asking you actually deny their request to modify the property. We worked for years with the Planning Commission, with them, and with you as the Town Council. I was at that meeting where the decision was made, and in your deliberations, you promised our neighborhood and our community, not just the neighborhood, but the community of Los Gatos Boulevard that stretches to 85, to Lark Avenue, Oka Road, that we would have more retail and restaurant and follow the guidelines for the Los Gatos Boulevard general plan. That's why I'm asking you to deny the modifications here. They have been approved and promised by you, by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission denied it again. In order to build our side of town up, we need retail, we need restaurants. We have so many medical and dental buildings, and lots of them sitting empty right now. And he has said he has tried to fill it with a restaurant. After I left the last Planning Commission meeting, I made one phone call and have an interested tenant for a restaurant. So I don't know how hard they're truly trying for a restaurant. Was this the original plan? It has been said that they have mentioned that they could sit on this property forever. Is that fair to us? I don't know. They were granted a 1-year extension, and they have not taken care of the property. Still, after my last meeting, there is still graffiti on the Carlton Avenue. There is still weeds, and there are still trash. So I have a hard time letting the town accept something from a developer who doesn't seem to truly care about the community in which he's building. And I really request that you deny the modification and keep it retail and residential. And that's exactly what the Planning Commission did. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Despars. I have another card from Leaf Ago.
Leaf Ago, 845 Lilac Way, Los Gatos. I'd just like to underscore the comments of the previous speaker. As a private citizen, I spend a lot of time at that end of the boulevard because that's my neighborhood. And I, too, am concerned not only with the way the building and, well, the site looks today, which is unmaintained and pretty ugly, and I would like to see it improved, but I'd like to see it, until it is improved inside of the ordinance that currently exists, that it be cleaned up, it be spruced up, and look a little more presentable, showing an interest that the owners and the developers have in our community today, much less once they start this contract and building whatever it is they're going to build there. Second is that we need to look at this in the context of the whole boulevard plan and the North 40 and what's going to impact that end of the town. We are looking for retail. We are looking for restaurants in the area. We have some very good restaurants today. And I think more of the same would serve the entire community and be a draw, economic as well as social, for that end of the town. And we're looking for that kind of help. I think that the other speaker pointed out as well that there is an empty medical building across the street for sale right now, perhaps too small, but again, there are a number of sites available that would be more conducive, perhaps closer to the Good Samaritan Hospital, which I think is the mecca, if you will, that's drawing these medical companies and facilities. So I would ask that the ordinance as it's written, as the Planning Commission has underscored, that it be upheld. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fago. Any other speakers? We'll have an opportunity to rebut if there's no other members of the public who would like to speak. Seeing none, then I'd ask the applicant to come forward again for the 5 minutes of rebuttal. Okay.
Thank you for your time. So in specific comments, I guess I have 3 comments. The first is as it relates to the retail component to this. We've actually hired John Kowaleski from Colliers International, who is a very well-known retail expert, and he's kind of been one of the main key persons on our team as we've gone through the process. I think initially when we've had quote-unquote tenant interest, when they've come and looked at actually our location and the accessibility, at first we may have interest, but then at the same time they end up not being able to move forward because of the physical constraints on the site. So we have pursued and we continue to pursue, but as it relates to what we have right now, again, is a very exciting tenant who's has seen the site, they understand everything, and they're willing to move forward as it stands. The second component was in terms of addressing the quality of actually the facility itself. We don't deny the fact that it's a vacant piece of property that's had, we've had to continue to monitor and make sure that the site itself is actually kept in well order. We actually received an email from the town staff on October 7th saying that our property managers are doing a very good job in terms of the weed protection as well as making sure that the project itself is maintained as good as it can be right now. So we are doing our best in terms of making sure the weeds are taken care of and actually handling the property, and we will continue to do that as well. As it relates to the Los Gatos Boulevard plan, in terms of that comment, we believe that we fit very well into the Los Gatos Boulevard plan, and we actually align with many of the goals of that plan itself. One of the vision statements says, promote commercial activity that complements the whole town. And this is a project that will absolutely provide commercial activity. We're going to have a high-quality medical tenant that will have over 150 people at any one given time. It creates employment. It provides services to the town, and it creates and increases the number of customers for the adjacent and local retail. So we really believe that our project fits and is actually going to kickstart off the development, and it's going to be a very good place for us to move forward with.
Okay, no more comments, questions from council? Councilwoman Spector, gentlemen.
Thank you. Mr. Dare, we've had comments again about the weeds on the property. They say they're weeds, you say they're not. But specifically, there was mention made of Carlton. Are there weeds on the Carlton edge? I mean, are you getting rid of those? Are you taking care of them?
So the property line, there's actually about a 5 to 7 foot buffer along Carlton that actually is owned by the town. So we actually can't, that's a public right-of-way that we actually don't maintain. But everything along Gateway, everything along Los Gatos Boulevard, our property line, it's within our control. So absolutely, we maintain everything that is within our property line and what we can control.
Please.
Question of staff, if I may. Could staff address the statement that the 5 feet on Carlton, which seems to be an issue here, is the town's property?
That's correct.
And is that the part with weeds?
That I don't know. I know that our Parks and Public Works staff have been noticed of issues in the past on this, and so we can circle back with Parks and Public Works staff to ensure that it gets squared away.
Thank you.
Mr. Manager.
And I believe one of the earlier speakers specifically spoke of graffiti on the fence, and the fence is a property obligation of the applicant, and we will work with them to get the graffiti removed that faces Carlton.
We can definitely, I'll have our property managers definitely look into that.
Okay, other questions for the applicant, Mr. Leonardis?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Dare, assuming that this moves forward this evening, what is the time frame bringing this property online, breaking ground, constructing? Obviously, there's concern of the blightedness that's been sticking around for a long time, so I was just wondering if you could comment on that for us.
That's a very fair question. So we are looking to move forward right away with our plans. We have to go through A&S, and we work on our plans, go through building permits and whatnot. It's probably going to take us about 7 months to be able to start to break ground.
One other follow-up question, and this relates to the Swanson Ford property on Blossom Hill Road. There's a couple comments from the speakers this evening about restaurant use, and that particular property, I think there was going to be a couple restaurants added at that location on Blossom Hill Road. Is that?
That's right. That's right. So in the past, I think we just received approval for that project less than 2 months ago. And in that period of time, in 2 months, we actually have, out of 21,000 square feet of retail commercial, not including office, but where we can actually put restaurants, we have about 60% of that identified for restaurants and retail. We have specific tenants we're working with and trading paper back and forth with right now. So I'm very excited, and that basically goes to say, when you have the right location as well as the right format, you're going to be able to find the tenants, and they're going to come. And I think 16,005 Los Gatos Boulevard proves that point.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for the applicants? I think you may sit, and we'll close the public hearing and look to the council for discussion, comments, questions, or a motion. I believe Mr. Leonardis wants to go first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just make a general comment. I wasn't on the council when this was originally approved, about 2.5 years ago, I guess, going on 2.5 years ago. Obviously, the economic environment has been very challenging, and what we're looking at tonight is something before us where we have an opportunity to get this thing moving forward, as opposed to it continuing to stagnate, which has been an issue in our community. It gives us an opportunity to bring some vibrancy to this location. Just looking at what we've come up with in the report here, it still keeps the door open for retail, restaurant use in the future, provided that a single-use tenant is not going to be secured. So I wanted to add those comments, and along with what Mr. Dare said about the other properties on Los Gatos Boulevard bringing retail and restaurant use, I look at this as a win-win for the community, the way I see it in front of us this evening.
Thank you. Other comments or discussion? I do want to make a couple of comments. One is about the Planning Commission. I think the motion maker that I believe it was Commissioner Jensen made the motion on the basis the denial motion was limited very specifically by Commissioner Jensen to the fact that this was a policy issue that the commission was not able to decide. It would rest with the council. And there were various other parts of the discussion in that particular hearing that I thought needed to be addressed. One was, it's the whole question of the Boulevard Plan and the dynamic of the Boulevard Plan. And I think if you read the Boulevard Plan carefully, you notice that it calls for a mix of uses. It doesn't designate that any one site needs to have every use that's possible on the boulevard. That it also indicates that there is an intention to create more destination-type retail on the north side and more community or neighborhood serving retail on the south side, moving into neighborhood residential components on the south. So we have the plan, and I think one of the problems that we have to make clear is that no one use is designated for any one site in the Boulevard Plan, that each is dependent upon the location and the configuration of the plan in that particular application. I do distinctly remember what happened in the discussion of this application when it first came before us. One of the issues was a strong response from some members of that neighborhood requesting that really we sequester this property from Carlton, that we wall this property away from Carlton, that we not have access from Carlton to this property. That was very distinct. It was also indicated that we did not want to have access between those two properties on the lateral between the Trader Joe's site and this site, primarily because of the impacts of parking, I believe. But I do distinctly remember the neighborhood response at that point in time. I was one of the proponents of the 8,500 square foot retail, but I envisioned something very different than what you're proposing here, and that was that it was a series of small offices, in effect, that would have this mixed-use component with the retail on the ground floor. And there are always competing values, and in this particular case, I think that if we look at the center immediately south of your property, it needs to be vitalized. Trader Joe's can't be the only vibrant site on that property. And I think the request for restaurants in this particular site should be cognizant of the fact that there's opportunity for restaurants in the site immediately adjacent. And that, as a matter of fact, there can be some synergy, but the fact that when the offices close at, I guess, 6 o'clock or whenever these offices would close, that it would reduce the amount of traffic that would be generated, so that the traffic that would be generated by restaurants or whatever evening use would occur in the other center would lessen the impact on the neighborhood. So I'm very cautious of the interpretation of the general plan, specifically when it talks about we have to do exactly what the general plan calls out in every case with every use. And I think the compromise being made may be an appropriate compromise. In effect, it holds the applicant to the multiple tenant / retail component, if that is indeed what evolves. But without that prohibition, or the prohibition would be in place that would disallow you to keep retail away if you have multiple tenants, but allow it if you've got a single tenant, which you indicate you have. I want to see that property developed. I think it's time to develop that property. I don't think it benefits the neighborhood. I think that if we were to say 2 years down the road, if we just held, maybe something would come along. That's 2 years out of our life we're never going to get back. And in this particular time, we're talking about a quality project with apparently a quality tenant that would enable us to actually have an activation of that site with some benefit to the surrounding neighborhoods. So I'm very much in favor of what you're proposing with the restricted language that the staff is offering us. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to underscore a couple of points regarding this in terms of of a land use decision and what has already been permitted there. It's currently approved for 40,000, 31,000 and change can already be medical dental legally. 8,500 square feet of retail does not necessarily mean a restaurant. As we saw down by Panera, that retail center, who are the other retail tenants in there? A telephone store, a workout studio. I mean, there's a lot of definitions of retail, and it may not be, whether we have this restriction or not, the exact retail that I would like to see there. I know I had a fit when, when AAA moved into that prime retail space, I thought, to the shopping center to the south. But that was a decision that the shopping center owners made. So as much as we would like to be able to micromanage this, we really can't. It's all about what the land use is that was permitted. And I don't want us to get too hung up on the promise of the single tenant that is currently being wooed or in discussion with the applicant, because that may not work out. So we have to kind of separate it out and say, does it make sense if there is a single tenant that wants 40,000 square feet, which could be medical, or it could be a law firm, or it could be a tech company, a mid-range tech company, that they need that 40,000 square feet, and they need a building and a campus that works for them without a lot of other customers and clients coming in. Does that make sense? Well, to me, yes, it does. On the other hand, if you don't have a single tenant and you start chopping it up, does it make sense to make sure that at least 8,500 square feet of that has some kind of retail component, minimum, however you define that? Well, yes, then I think it does. So I am very comfortable with the alternative in attachment 6, revised page 1 of attachment 5, which is attachment 6. We can get into that in a little bit, because I think it really protects what we are trying to do, which is to create, through land use decision, an opportunity to have a quality project, however that might evolve. And we don't know right now who those tenants are going to be, but I would be comfortable with going with that either way. So, Mayor, if you want motions, I can do it, although the directions are somewhat confusing here. So
Agreed.
staff is probably going to have to lead us through this, if you want to do that now, or if you want more council comment.
Well, we can always make a motion and then comment after the motion. So I would believe.
Shall we
you can
have
go
her
ahead.
read the ordinance name, or not yet?
I think we have to read the ordinance name,
Okay.
even though it's not in the language here. Please. So,
Ord-
clerk?
Pardon me. Ordinance of the Town of Los Gatos rescinding Ordinance 2175 and amending the town code affecting a zone change from CHPD to CHPD for property located at 15400 Los Gatos Boulevard, APN 424-15045.
Thank you. Madam McNutt.
I have no idea. Would you like a motion on accepting the report, or a motion to waive the reading? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
my
it might
sense
be helpful
is-
if Joel walks through the required action.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it ultimately is going to be that complicated, but yes, if you would feel more comfortable as the maker of the motion, yes.
Sure, so the first matter would be to accept the report of the Planning Commission's recommendation in the form of their meeting minutes.
And that requires a motion? So made then.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Councilwoman McNutt. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
And then at the bottom of page 1, the first find would be to make the required finding supporting the zone change amendment, and then move to waive the reading. The clerk has already read the title.
Correct.
And then continuing on to introduce the ordinance and approve it, subject to the recommended or modified in attachment 6.
Maker of the motion?
I will move staff's recommendation that he just explained.
Okay, and that's attachment 6, that includes the language unless a single tenant office user occupies the entire building. That's
Correct.
the exclusion. Okay, thank you. Is there a second? There is a second. Further discussion? Seeing none. Oh, there is a discussion, please.
We're at discussion now, right?
Yes,
The
we are.
motion is done.
You got it.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm seconding the motion. I am supporting this motion. But it's not because the property has remained vacant or because the applicant did or did not use the right realtors, was unable to get financing, was unable to get a tenant. I consider those more private sector issues. In making a land use decision to amend the PD, I look to the general plan, zoning ordinances, and in this case, the boulevard plan, which is why I asked staff at the beginning if there was anything prohibiting this amendment to the PD, and also what it was in those land use documents that may have caused us to vote the way we did when this was first before us. So for all those reasons, I am supporting the motion, which is why I seconded it.
Okay, further discussion? I want to say too that land use is not just cut and dry, black and white. That it is a combination of factors. And good land use takes into account the variety of opportunities that we have presented us. And I think we've done a really good job in this community of maintaining our integrity in our land use decisions. I see this proposal with the amendment as good governance. You know, I don't think that in some ways there's hints in the media that's a mano a mano kind of thing. Who's tougher than whom? And if you decide to evolve your thinking, then somehow there's a weakness there. I totally reject that. I think what that denies is the fact that we're in an evolutionary process. In this particular case, we have a boulevard that is evolving before our eyes, and every one of the proposals for infill that we have is going to face the same kind of inquiry about, does this fit? Does this make sense? Is this a good thing? Does this enhance the community? And I think that's always what we have to keep in mind is, at any moment in time, does this enhance the community? Being part of that initial discussion way back when, 2.5 years ago, and noting a variety of things were significant. One real significant issue was the height and the potential to block the view shed. That seemed to be the most discussed item. And there was some resolution that took place on that. This wasn't the most discussed item. This was part of a mix of possibilities at that time. And so as an individual who was part of that discussion, seeing this discussion, I actually see this as somewhat a natural evolution from where we were when we first made this decision. And I look forward to the day when the other projects that are now finally coming on board start to fill the boulevard in a vibrancy that really reflects the town. Because right now it doesn't. You know, and we're never going to pursue the El Camino as our standard. And I think that when you're seeing this project and some of the others that are now coming on board, I think we can very, very comfortably say that that we are moving in the right direction. And if in 2 or 3 years these infill projects have been able to come into being, and we are now experiencing a much greater dynamic on the boulevard, I think it's going to benefit the neighbors, and it's going to benefit the town. And with that, you know, I think that that this motion should go forward, and I hope that the applicant is able to pursue what you are promising us tonight in a way that is expeditious. I believe that was kind of the concern that Mr. Leonardis had. That, will we get started with this in a relatively soon? So, any other comments or questions? We've got a motion. We've got a second. Seeing none, I'm going to call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. That concludes our business for the evening, and I would just remind all of us that in memory of Los Gatos resident and business owner Dave Flick, that we are adjourning this meeting.